Every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
An object's acceleration is in the same direction as its net force and is equal to its net force.
An object at rest stays at rest.
In motion stays in motion.
Newton's first law says that an object in motion stays in motion unless acted on by an outside force. This ball will stay in motion until it's acted on by the outside force, which is the wall. According to the second part of Newton's first law, an object at rest, which is the yellow ball, will stay at rest until acted on by an outside force.
Okay, Newton's second law of motion states acceleration is produced when a force acts on a mass. The greater the mass of the object being accelerated, the greater the amount of force needed to accelerate the object. Pushing or pulling an object produces acceleration, a change in the speed of motion. Newton's third law states that every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
When sitting on a chair, your body exerts a force on the chair, and the chair exerts an equal force back. If the chair didn't exert the same force, you would fall.
Newton's first law states that an object in motion stays in motion, and an object at rest stays at rest until acted upon by an outside force. So this ball will not move unless acted upon an outside force, which will be me. And Newton's second law states that an object's force is equal to mass times acceleration. So if I roll these two balls as hard as I can, one of them will go further than the other due to its mass. Newton's third law states that every object has an opposite and equal reaction. So when I push down on this ball, the ball is also pushing back on my hand, as you can tell by the marks on my hand.
An object in motion stays in motion, and an object at rest stays at rest unless acted upon by an outside force.
An object's force is equal to its mass times acceleration. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
An object at rest stays at rest. Newton's second law, the bigger the mass of the object, the slower it goes. Newton's third law, every action has an opposite or equal reaction.
The reaction in this law is me holding the balloon, and the opposite reaction is me letting go.
Newton's first law states an object moves to a constant velocity unless an unbalanced force acts on it. So this object is at rest until an unbalanced force puts it into motion. Newton's second law. An object's acceleration is in the same direction as the net force and is equal to the net force exerted on it divided by its mass. Newton's third law states every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So these two balls, when they collide, they have an opposite reaction, but they have equal force going into it.
An object in motion stays in motion, and the object at rest stays at rest unless acted on by an outside force. An object's acceleration is in the same direction as the net force and is equal to the net force exerted on it divided by its mass. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
Newton's first law, an object in motion stays in motion, an object at rest stays at rest unless acted upon by an outside force.
Newton's second law says an object's acceleration is in the same direction as the net force and is equal to the net force exerted divided by its mass.
Newton's third law, every action has an equal opposite reaction.
Object in motion stays in motion. Object at rest stays at rest. F equals ma times acceleration. Every action have equal and opposite reactions.
An object in motion stays in motion. An object at rest will stay at rest unless an unbalanced force acts upon it. Newton's second law of motion states that an object's acceleration in the same direction as the net force on the object is equal to the net force exerted on it divided by its mass. Newton's third law of motion states that when an object exerts a force on a second object, the second object exerts a force on the first that is equal in strength and opposite in direction.
Newton's second law, force equals mass times acceleration. Newton's third law, every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
Newton's first law states that object moves at a constant velocity unless on it. If it's at motion, if it's at rest, the velocity is 0. The tissue box is at rest. If you move it, it's at motion.
Good.
Okay, Newton's second law is force equals mass times acceleration. Newton's third law states that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. The reaction force of the binder and table is going up, and the force of the attraction between the binder and Earth.
Give it to me.
Good.
Object in motion stays in motion, and an object at rest stays at rest.
She fired. An object's acceleration is in the same direction as the net force and is equal to the net force exerted on it divided by its mass. F equal ma.
Alright, let's go.
Every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
Newton's first law states, an object in motion stays in motion, and an object at rest stays at rest, unless acted upon by an outside force. As you can see, both of these balls are at rest. This one is put into motion, and it's going to stop until it's stopped by some sort of friction. This ball's still at rest, because nothing has altered it. No outside force. Newton's second law states an object's acceleration is in the same direction as the net force and is equal to the net force exerted on it divided by its mass. As you can see, these two balls have the same mass, so the acceleration is dependent on the force exerted on it. As you can see, the second ball had a greater acceleration because there was more net force. Newton's third law states every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So by bouncing this ball, you can see that after it bounces, it has an exactly equal but opposite reaction by bouncing back up.